Before I get right into it, let me warn you that this video obviously contains some major spoilers, so if you don't want anything to be spoiled, it's time for you to close this video. Anyways, the final season will see even more powerful Cersei that she has ever been before. That powerful that even Jon Snow will at some point come all the way south to the capital to plead for Cersei's help once again. As expected, Game of Thrones crew and cast came back to Dubrovnik to film scenes for the final season. This Croatian city has been used as location for King's Landing since season 2, and therefore it's not surprising they came there to film parts of the final season. However, Lena Headey, better known as Cersei Lannister, did film a few scenes with an unexpected main character, Jon Snow. Kit Harington, an actor that portrays Jon, had firstly been spotted filming a scene in which Jon Snow is escorted through the city walls by Northmen-looking soldiers, and the next day we saw his destination. I will explain you the circumstances of this meeting that are at this moment a mystery, but let me firstly explain you its placement in the season. At first glance, the fact that both David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are on scene and giving directions would indicate this scene belongs to the show's finale, which they are directing. However, the showrunners were only providing guidance as producers and writers, since the actual director, David Nutter, was also seen on set. David Nutter, the guy behind The Reigns of Casimir and The Dance of Dragons, is directing episodes 1, 2 and 4, meaning that these scenes will take place in episode 4. If you're wondering how am I so sure, let me explain it to you in a few sentences. Not only that Jon is at the end of season 7 heading to Winterfell, but as it's been recently confirmed by leaked photos, Jon and Daenerys will suffer a tremendous defeat at Winterfell in the 3rd episode. Huge major battle sequence that included around 500 extras was already filmed and it let Winterfell set burn down. There are photos in which we can see 200 and more armed extras fighting in a huge battle. Some of those men are the Unsullied wielding spears tipped with dragonglass, meaning that they are clearly fighting against the army of the dead. Even though at first glance it might look more of a flame of Daenerys' dragons, it's actually Viserion's flame. So the Night King's dragon is burning down Winterfell in the 3rd episode of the final season, which along with the fact that Nutter is directing episodes 1, 2 and 4, means that these scenes in which Cersei has a parley in King's Landing with Jon Snow is most definitely taking place in episode 4. So we have Cersei with an escort, her Queen's Guard including Gregor the Mountain Clegane, having an important meeting with unarmed Jon Snow. The Lannister flag flew above the fortress, indicating that Cersei Lannister is still in control of King's Landing. The only questions everyone wants to be answered are, what exactly are Jon and Cersei discussing, and in what circumstance does Jon find himself still in the Cersei-held capital? At first glance, it would seem like Jon is coming to plead for Cersei's help after the living side has suffered a huge losses at Winterfell. After all, Jon would not return to enemy territory unless the circumstances were dire. Some are even going that far to say that those two are arranging a marriage deal. However, I would say that Jon is coming to Cersei to propose her two options. To either accept the entire living side to seek sanctuary in King's Landing, now that the Night King and his army have successfully gotten past Winterfell, or to refuse and get herself burned down by either Dany's dragons, or even by the Night King's dragon as she will not be able to stop him by herself. Could it be that Cersei will accept this proposal and save millions of lives? Definitely, after all, while Jon is not wearing Longclaw nor his breastplate, Cersei is not wearing her crown. It seems like everyone has put aside their marks of office. However, we should have in mind that the person Jon has come to parley with is Cersei Lannister, and therefore it doesn't surprise that many fans are wondering if Cersei will have Jon captured. Some are even going that far to claim that this filming has confirmed statements from leaked plot that says Cersei will have Jon locked up in her dungeons. So will Cersei use this opportunity to get rid of one of her enemies? The answer is yes, she will most certainly like to do that, but no, she will not be able to capture and execute Jon like she did Ned Stark, or at least not at this point of the season. The reason being Daenerys Targaryen's presence. It's not only Jon who came to parley with Cersei, he's accompanied with Dany. One leaked photo shows a figure silhouetted in an archway. The figure seems to be Daenerys herself, as the figure has blonde hair, a dark outfit, and a chain across their front. It looks the same to what Daenerys was wearing last season. So why won't Cersei be able to capture Jon, or even both, Jon and Daenerys for that matter? The answer is one small detail: they are having a parley in front of a window. HBO is trying hard to prevent spoilers, and this was a horrible way to do it. So filming this major scene in front of a window must be necessary for the scene. And now we're coming to the answer that will explain to you why Cersei will not be able to use this opportunity to capture her enemies. It's because of Dany's dragons. At some point of filming, crew set green screen across that window, meaning that Cersei will have a clear view on Dany's dragons flying above King's Landing, and therefore if she is to capture and execute any of them, Cersei knows that the entire King's Landing would be burned down. Jon and Daenerys have most likely traveled to the capital by themselves on Rhaegal and Drogon without armies, and therefore they've assured that Cersei will not be able to lock them up in her dungeons. During this visit, Jon also may speak to Cersei alone, just like Eddard Stark did back in the 1st season. I believe Jon will, just like Ned did, warn Cersei to flee into exile and step away from the Iron Throne to avoid her certain death. At this point, even Jon Snow may not be able to stop Daenerys from burning the Red Keep along with Cersei in it. Basically, while the living will be fighting the dead during the first half of the season, Cersei will, as she calls it, retrieve kingdoms that belong to her with the help of mercenary organization. However, at this point, it's certain that dragons will reach the capital and burn down the Red Keep. As I already said in my previous video, the production has built a King's Landing set to do live pyrotechnics. It means that some parts of the capital will be burned down by a dragon, as Dragonfire in Game of Thrones is portrayed by live pyro. Not only is the King's Landing set that will be burned down, confirming this, but there are also a few visions that are yet to come true that are as well confirming that the Red Keep truly will burn down. While prophecies in Game of Thrones don't literally come true, visions on the other hand do. We know this for a fact, as in the 6th episode of the 6th season, after Mira flees the cave with Bran received multiple visions of past and future events, and one of his visions from the future already came true in the season 6 finale. Bran's vision of the exploding wildfire already came true. The remaining 2 visions from the future that are yet to come true are the shadow of a dragon flying over King's Landing, and the one in which Bran sees King's Landing in winter with an empty throne room that has its roof blown off. Dragon flying above the capital might be Dany's dragon escorting Jon and Daenerys to this meeting with Cersei. However, Dany would not destroy the Red Keep in which the Iron Throne is, neither would she burn down houses where innocent people live, as proven in numerous season 7 scenes. The damage done to the Red Keep and to the houses, however, is consistent with something that Dany's dragon would be able to do. Even though Jon and Dany will offer Cersei one more chance to help them in the only war that matters, the Mad Queen will make a huge mistake that will eventually lead to her death. Upon losing Winterfell to the Night King, Jon and Dany will most likely manage to talk Cersei into letting the entire living side into the capital, as it might be their only chance to defeat the army of the dead. Even though Jon, Jaime and basically every single character with their armies are coming to the capital to defend it, Cersei is preparing a trap for them. Cersei intends to have all her enemies, both the living and the dead, fight on the streets of King's Landing, whereupon she would use wildfire to burn them all. It's still unknown whether or not Cersei is aware that there's caches of wildfire on the Red Keep itself, even though it would not be surprising if she does. When faced with defeat, Cersei most certainly would not hesitate to blow up King's Landing, even if it means she would die too. Don't forget that when it appeared that Stannis was winning the battle for King's Landing, Cersei was ready to kill herself along with her child. However, Cersei most probably knows that there is a stash of wildfire beneath her, so she'll most likely have it relocated to other parts of King's Landing. Anyways, ruthless as she is, Cersei will make one mistake that will cost her life. Cersei will have Jaime to meet her in the throne room just before she intends to blow up most of King's Landing. Cersei still loves Jaime and doesn't want him to die, so she will summon him to meet her and that way save his life. This way Cersei would assure that only her enemies would burn down, while Jaime and her would be the only one left. However, this is a huge mistake on Cersei's behalf, as Jaime will not only prevent her from burning down the capital, but will also kill her. Jaime will finally realize that his sister and former lover is no different than the Mad King he had to sacrifice his honor for. Jaime will hear it from Cersei herself that she intends to use wildfire to get rid of all her enemies, including Jon and Dany's armies that came to save the capital. Jaime realizes that Cersei is about to order the entire city to be burned to ashes with million people in it, rather than support the living side and fight the Night King, because she knows if the living side is to win, she will not be able to keep the Iron Throne. Jaime already sacrificed his honor once in order to save hundreds of thousands of innocent lives by killing the Mad King, and has ever since been called the Kingslayer. However, Cersei now intends to do the same, but this time it's not hundreds of thousands, but rather millions of innocent lives. It's pretty safe to say that Jaime is going to kill his sister once she gives an order to Qyburn to, as the Mad King used to say, burn them all. I already explained Jaime's and Cersei's deaths in details in my video regarding the confirmed deaths of the final season, so feel free to check it out if you haven't already. Anyways, even though Jaime will save King's Landing from wildfire, the capital will still be facing the Night King's huge army at its gates. Bran's only remaining vision from the future at this point to come true is the one Daenerys also had in the House of the Undying. The charred remains of the throne room of the Red Keep in King's Landing, the roof collapsed and everything around the Iron Throne covered in snow. This will most likely be done by the Night King's dragon in the final battle between the living and the dead. In conclusion, this huge meeting between Cersei and Jon will end with another fake promise on Cersei's behalf. She will ensure Jon that the living side can seek refuge in King's Landing, and it must not fall while she is actually setting a trap. In the end of Season 7, Cersei's plan was to allow her enemies to exhaust themselves against the army of the dead, then have the Golden Company mop up the remnants of whoever is left in the north. However, the army of the dead is the one that will win the battle for the north. This is a moment Cersei will make a new plan. She will now allow the entire living side to seek refuge at the capital, but she will also open the city gates for the army of the dead. Cersei's plan is to have all of them fighting inside King's Landing, whereupon she would burn them all with wildfire that is hidden all over the capital.